Greetings, I'm Brian Howie, publisher of Howie Politics Indiana, and I'm going to give you a little bit of our week in review. We had a very interesting week this week. First of all, spring is here, March is finally here. I've got my White Sox cap on. For you Cub fans out there, I know it's tough. I know they're fighting in the dugout already. And I still think you're only about halfway through the championship drought, although someday I hope that you can taste the sweet nectar of victory that we Sox fans tasted in 2005. Well, we've got Pat Bauer and his jolly band of Democrats over in Urbana, Illinois. Now, I can think of a lot other places that I'd rather be than Champaign, Urbana, Illinois, out there on the cold, windy Illinois prairie. Key West, if I had been Pat Bauer, I certainly would have taken a long, hard look at Key West, maybe La Jolla, California. Climate much better, great coffee shops, great bars. Down in Key West, you can get some great key lime pie and plenty of conference centers and that kind of thing. Now, when will the Indiana Democrats come back? We really don't know. And to some extent, most of us really don't care. They may be working this August, maybe this September, maybe next November. The governor, I think, is eventually going to get his way on this, and right now they're just wasting a lot of time. So we'll have to see. Certainly, Pat Bauer is getting great marks from his people in organized labor. They've been occupying the State House for much of the last 2 weeks. Not sure how it's going to play with the independent voter. Um, my main analysis centered on what I call the Bauer catastrophe, which was he presided over the 2010 election cycle that was an absolute disaster for his party. They lost the 4 open seats. They saw their um, uh, 52-48 majority go to 60-40 for the Republicans, and thus the only thing they can do is to walk out in order to staunch the legislation that's aimed against them. The other thing is that Pat Bauer was an obstacle in just about any kind of reform that Governor Daniels and the Republicans had been pushing, and even those that we see articulated by President Obama and Education Secretary Arne Duncan. They are not on the same page. Many of the things that the governor's trying to do on the education front is consistent with the Obama agenda as far as education goes. And he made the point on Fox News Sunday last week that the first 4 of the 10 items that Bauer wanted killed, in addition to the right to work legislation, coincided with the Obama race to the top agenda. So Democrats in the state are not on the same page. Um, I took a long, hard look at some more mayoral races. We switched the Bloomington race between John Hamilton and Mayor Kruzan from toss-up to Leans-Kruzan. I think that Mayor Kruzan is probably in better shape than I initially thought, but Hamilton has a chance to make inroads in the IU crowd. That race is definitely one we're going to be watching. I've got Mayor Copeland up in East Chicago leaning. I had that one as toss-up last week. He's facing City Councilman Rich Medina, and it's going to be interesting to see where the white vote goes up there in East Chicago. And the Hammond mayoral race, I've got that leans Tom McDermott, the Lake County Democratic chairman. He's facing Oscar Sanchez, the former chief of staff to Sheriff Dominguez. Roy's been very active, even though he's no longer sheriff. In Indianapolis, I still think Melania Kennedy is in good shape in the Democratic primary against Ron Gibson. Thank God we got Bob Kern out of that one now. But as I reported last week, we've seen some polling that has Mayor Ballard with a pretty significant lead, which was a bit surprising. I think a lot of people thought that he'd be more on his heels at this particular point than he is. So that one bears watching. And certainly we're watching the Brainerd-Asaturno race in Carmel. Right now I've got that as leaning Brainerd, but we'll see if the Tea Party gets fully involved in that. This week's edition of Howie Politics Indiana, we've got some great columns by Chris Sauter talking about the challenges facing a potential Daniels presidential bid. Dave Kitchell writes about Obama and the Nebraska Cornhuskers having a very similar agenda. If you recall, in 2008, Obama carried all 8 Big Ten states, and he'll have his work cut out for him on that front. We've got Jack Caldwell talking about how Senator Dick Lugar is a statesman. Apparently a lot of Republicans don't really want statesmen. They want U.S. senators to go to Lincoln Day dinners. And we've got Morton Marcus talking about the nightmare in his neighborhood and the fact that the Republicans seem to be intent on slashing and burning and cutting their way through the budget deficits. Anyway, that's the highlights of this week's edition of How We Politics Indiana. You can subscribe by touching that subscribe button just above my Sox hat here, or you can give us a call at 317-627-6746. If you do, you get my lovely wife Beverly on the phone, and she'll get you all set up. And we've got the potential campaign of Mitch Daniels on the presidential front. Really no news on that front. Is he going to go or not? Don't know. Well, anyway, thanks a lot for tuning in, and check us out next week. How We Politics Indiana, covering the golden age of Indiana politics.